things that bother you never bother me. I feel happy and fine. Aha! Living in the sunlight, loving in the moonlight, having a wonderful time.
That joke will pay off a little bit later. Don't worry about it. So, I decided to take my level 50 Moonlit Knight and take him up to 90 just so I could have a different sort of character that I could play around with. And I was doing some Backstab fishies. I was working on that. You're going to see a lot of painful moments in this video of me trying and trying and trying and failing. And we're going to talk about this playstyle just sort of in general.
Haven't got a lot, I don't need a lot. Coffee's only a dime. Living in the sunlight, loving in the moonlight, having a wonderful time.
And the reason I'm doing that is because I see a lot of people bitch and complain about this sort of playstyle. Verticality. Critical fishing. Not verticality, and not, but the backstab fishing. People complain about it, and as is the case in most things Dark Souls PvP related, the reason they're bitching and complaining is because they don't understand it. So let's understand it a little bit, shall we? This is me looking for a backstab. I'm locked on because I'm expecting him to chug, and I didn't get it in time. It's a little easier to do those unlocked, but see how I'm running at this dude with my guard up and I'm holding a dagger? That's about a fucking 99% chance that he's fighting a backstab fisher. So if you see somebody doing that, recognize what it is that they're doing. Now a better backstab fisher than me could have got him right there during all those swings, but I'm still learning, so you know, it'll take some time. But one of the things about the backstab fishing is it's easy to understand it once you start doing it, and that will solve a lot of problems for people who don't understand why it is they're getting backstabbed. So let's look at it from like the most base perspective. Backstabs in Dark Souls 3 have a two-factor authentication. There's two parts to a backstab, which is why it has that animation, where your hand pulls back and then the backstab happens, right? And against a really laggy opponent, sometimes your hand will pull back, you'll stab them, and then it initiates the backstab. Now, if you want to avoid getting backstabbed, it's really not that hard. It's pretty simple. When you see somebody running at you, holding a dagger, and looks like they're playing unlocked, just roll away. Just roll away from them. If you stand still, they're gonna get you, because that's all the time it takes to get that backstab. Just like this wall got me.
Just take it from me, I'm just as free as any daughter. I do what I like, just what I like, and how I love it.
So, as with any sort of, like, have you ever had a problem with a weapon in Dark Souls 3 PvP, and you're thinking, man, this weapon is giving me fits. So you try using it, and you see how other people are dealing with it. Backstab fishing is a lot like that. For me, part of the reason I learned it, and again, I'm still not very good at it, but the reason I'm learning it, I guess, is because I wanted to see how you beat it. It's just another playstyle I wanted to be able to defend myself from, as well as use when it benefit me. Now, I don't know that I'll ever be one of those guys who's so sure and confident of my backstabs that I'll try it when there's multiple opponents on the screen, but I will for sure use it against a solo host after I've killed all his phantoms to keep him from summoning more phantoms. It comes in very handy in a situation like that. So this character basically is me using two of my favorite weapons, Goddard's and the Aquamarine Dagger. I believe in this clip my Goddard's or simple infused. I ended up going crystal. I thought maybe simple could be good because maybe the dex scaling would still be decent, but it's not. So I just ended up going crystal for the Goddards after a while. So, as with anything, learning this playstyle was basically just an attempt on my end to know how to defend myself against it. And you're going to see when I get this host by himself, it's not that he even means to defend himself against this playstyle. You can tell by the way he keeps his shield up all the time, like he's not a very experienced PvPer. But it's one of those things where the unexperienced PvPer sometimes does the right thing. See how he rolls backwards? He always does that. He never lets me come in. Let me come in, boy. Without rolling away. But eventually, he starts making a mistake. Because he thinks it pays off for him. Here in a moment, he's going to parry me. Entirely on accident, I'm sure. But he starts thinking that parry paid off for him. So he teaches himself a bit of a bad habit. I'm looking for a pivot backstab. But at the end of this clip, what you're going to see is I get a parry backstab. It's still me doing a pivot, but that little jump I'm doing right there is because my jump button is on my analog stick, and sometimes I press in on the analog stick while I'm trying to do my pivots. Now, if I was holding my weapon up, I wouldn't pivot. Hold your guard up, your shield, or two-hand your weapon, like that. But see, he starts going for parries, and so I just end up getting a regular, you know,
just take it from me. I'm just as free as any daughter.
I just ended up getting a regular parry backstab on him. A parry with backstab. And I'm sure most of you have probably gotten one of those backstabs before during your Dark Souls 3 PvP days. So, it's actually brilliant that it worked out that way. Because that's exactly how the pivot backstab works. The difference is, you've removed the parry is what keeps them stationary and allows you to spin around them and get that backstab. Playing unlocked and going for the pivot backstab, things happen so quickly that the game's latency hasn't caught up with what's happening. And as a result, you can get that backstab, they're still stuck in place, even though they didn't try and parry or do anything. You can also do it to someone if they attack, especially with something like a rapier or a spear. I'm sure some of you have probably gotten backstabs that way against opponents because they're attacking in a straight line, locking themselves in place, and you basically just run in and backstab them. Pivot backstabs and the backstab fishing game work exactly like that, except instead of keeping you frozen in place for a split second, they're just exploiting the game's latency. Check out this verticality. So intense, it broke his game. So what do I mean by that when I'm talking about you're exploiting the game's latency? When you play locked onto someone, you follow them around wherever they go. But you'll always notice there's a little bit of delay between where you go and how quickly they turn around and face you if you run behind them. Now, if you're locked on, for whatever reason, it's much harder to just take a backstab. But if you play unlocked and you pivot, you can run in real quick, pivot behind them, and get the backstab before the game even turns them around. Because they're locked on, they're still looking where you were. So you're basically exploiting the lock-on system, and you're exploiting the game's latency, the inherent latency. And people will complain and say that's bullshit, but seriously, once you learn to counter it, it's not that hard to counter. Once you learn to counter it, it's really not that bad, and it's just sort of a fun extra skill that you can add to your playstyle, which is always good. It's always good to learn new things and try new stuff. I'm still going to be a meat and potatoes Dark Souls player for the most part, but going for a cool, flashy backstab, there's nothing wrong with that. It's fun. It looks cool, and yeah, it's just neat. But it's one of those things where I think people, like, if I was any other uploader, you probably wouldn't be seeing all these fuck-ups and misses. You'd just be seeing this, you know what I mean? It'd just be like a highlight reel of me doing it awesome over and over again. But I fuck up a lot. I'm still not entirely perfect at it by any means. I'm right here to stay when I'm old and gray. I'll be right in my prime. Haha. But, you know, that's anything. It takes some practice, it takes some skill. You have to develop it just like you would anything else. But I really like the idea of combining that backstab fishing sort of playstyle, like the flashy backstabs and parries. I really like the idea of combining that with Goddard's unlocked, you know, L1 barrage. It's a lot of fun. Originally, this dude was using the Herald curved greatsword, as you saw in one clip, but I eventually switched up and went to Goddard's, and I had a much better experience with that. Crystal Exile and Crystal Herald greatsword, they're both very good. They do a shit ton of damage, like a shit ton. But I would rather, like, I'll sacrifice efficiency for fun, and playing Unlocked with Goddard's is fun, so give me that. That was actually, on my last video, somebody mentioned how a dark straight sword, look at this, come on. Oh, that's fun. Somebody mentioned how a dark straight sword was doing as much damage as my Boys Twinks Ultra Great Sword. And they said this truly is the darkest timeline. And they weren't wrong, but I'm here to have fun at this point. I'm not here to be like super efficient or whatever. Having a wonderful time. Having a wonderful... So, learning the backstab game, that sort of goes in with that. Because I don't think it'll ever be as efficient as just the sort of meat and potatoes playstyle. But it's fun, and fun wins out at the end of the day. I get to practice my rollback stabs against this guy because he's swinging that big, huge weapon. Basically, a rollback stab just requires you know the exact roll space and timing of the weapon that you're backstabbing. Now what's great is the Aquamarine Dagger's Transformed mode allows you to sort of slow walk, and you look all edgy and shit, and that's cool, but it also allows you to really know your footing. Verticality, which is great. Just kill me! Just fucking kill me! And yeah, it's fun combining these two different sorts of playstyles. But skipping to the end, if you want to just learn how to play against the backstab fishing, basically don't swing twice. Don't do things that lock you in an animation. If you see somebody backstab fishing, it's as simple as just rolling out. Roll out when they come in and try and punish them the best you can. Maybe just 1R1, 2R1s maybe. Now, if you watch two, like, very experienced backstab fishers going at one another, you might see them doing some tricky shit to try and catch each other. But honestly, you don't even have to worry about that. It's one of those things where the noob idea is typically actually the best idea. Just roll away from it. Don't R1 spam. Just roll away from it. Play unlock back at them. That way, you know, your back isn't frozen in place when they pivot. Sort of learn the basics of backstabbing. I suggest everybody go out and try it. Play around with it for a little bit, and it'll help you develop a defense when you come up against it. You thought that was the end of the video, but it's not. It turns out there's more. Lothric News Network reporting. Goddard's confirmed. Overpowered. Salt mining equipment. Overpowered. Hate mail generator. Buzzwords. With hate mail. Logical mail. Reasonable mail. That Phantom is dead. But previously, on Dark Souls. I invaded these guys, right? No big deal. Pretty standard stuff. I'm looking for cool footage of me backstabbing people. Let's talk about backstabs. And I invade Joan of Arc here. I see I'm fighting them on a bridge. I equip the Silver Cat Ring. Foolishly, I swing a dagger into a Zweihander. Oh, shit. Nice latency there, White Phantom. It's cool. You don't have to animate or anything. We're all allowed to play online together. Wee Wi-Fi. I try to make my escape here. I take one last hit from the Zweihander, then a Wi-Fi latency counter hit, and then the plunge attack from the Phantom, which that's fair, you know, it's all fair. It's all... I didn't send the dude hate mail about it or anything, you know what I mean? I kill his Phantom. After I kill his Phantom, I'm keeping the invasion alive, you know what I mean? I'm trying to kill you. That's my fucking job. Like I said, looking for that sweet backstab footage. Sick montage, bro. Fucking sweet. I've been playing around with the L1s, the R1s, the R2s, the L1s, trying to see what I can do. Do some mix-ups, some cool stuff, see how it works. I killed this Phantom, and after the end of this invasion, he sends me, you know, some piece of mail or whatever. But I want you to watch this. He's rolling backwards towards the enemies. I'll give you red eyes, you coward. I'll punch you in the temple. Screw you. You couldn't fight me one-on-one. You had to use all of the enemies until you finally killed me. Loser. Just a game, etc., etc. The invasion continues on. Which way is he going? Yes, extra annoying though when you already have enough enemies to fight. If you're going to invade, you should be willing to fight, not run away. Sorry about the rage, just a game. So would you expect the invader to fight you and your Phantom, but you should not be subjected to fighting an invader and the enemies? No, of course not. He had died. We were alone. You still ran to all of the enemies. Man. I did not run to the enemies! He rolled into the enemies. This is why I block people's names when they send me hate mail. It's because a lot of times, man, they're just upset. Like, I know it's funny and we all get a kick out of reading hate mail. There's nothing wrong with that. But, you know, take into consideration, the dude probably just had a shitty day or something. You know what I mean? It's no big deal. But still ran to all of the enemies? I didn't run to all the enemies. He rolled directly back into the enemies. But having said that, he started this off like threatening physical violence. And then I was like, hey man, it's just a game. And all of a sudden, you know, he sort of calmed down. And reason and rationality won the day. And yeah, sure, maybe he misremembered some details like, oh, I don't know, the fact that he literally rolled into every fucking enemy that ever lived. But, you know, logic won. And if nothing else, my channel's about logic.